Okay.
Hi, I'm Rachel.
I'm Kate.
And I'm Hannah.
And it's time for another book talk.
Yeah.
And this time we're talking about Crown of Midnight, which is the second one in the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas, in case you didn't know that. And this is Rachel's only read up to Crown of Midnight hour.
Right. We're doing beginners, so we're going to try and not spoil any of the larger universe stuff in this hour. So it will have spoilers for the book, but not for the wider universe.
Series.
Right.
The series or the wider universe.
Yes.
The Maas first, if you will.
Yes.
I will start by saying that Hannah and I got a lot of texts from Rachel during this one.
This was painful.
It was painful for me.
Was it?
Her texts were painful to me because, I love everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, Hannah made a hand heart.
And every time you said something that I feel like is going to be resolved in later books, I was just,
Like,
Yeah, it's a slow burn.
I can't talk about it. But I wholeheartedly agree. This book and the first book could have been combined. Should have been combined. If you overlapped these two books, we have a fast-paced, compelling, interesting narrative that doesn't leave us thinking our main characters are morons.
Agreed.
But when you split them, I was so frustrated with Selena.
Rachel, I read this book today, and with all of the things that you brought to light, I was reading it, thinking about that, and I have some counter arguments.
Okay, good.
Because I think when we get there, I think a lot of the things that really frustrated you are really intentional and a part of who she is. And I think that you just don't like that person in real life.
I just don't like Selena.
I don't think you would like her in real life. I don't think that she would be buddies. But I think that there are parts of her personality that I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, I know that person. I can relate to that. I recognize where that's coming from. She does do things that there's a part in the book, and I think I wrote it down and I should pull it up, where Kale describes her as insane. And I need to pull it up because it's like 4 adjectives, and I was like, oh, I need to remember this. I might have written it down. I didn't. So we'll talk about that. And I think that's really great to...
If you don't like Selena now, I don't want to be here when you read Assassin's Blade because I feel like she's a total brat in that one.
Yeah, she's a lot younger. I mean, she's not a lot younger, but that's a really good point. So why don't we... Before we dive in, I want to grab my phone, though, so I can bring light to those things I was thinking about. But
You just read my texts.
Yeah.
All my
Yeah.
passive-aggressive.
They weren't passive. That's not passive-aggressive.
I was like, don't text him again. Don't.
No, it's not passive-aggressive.
I had to set myself a timer and be like, you have to sit down and read this book for half an hour, and then you can get up.
So why don't you share how this experience was a little bit different than it normally is?
Well, normally I can just finish a book.
And you started off on Audible.
I did start off on Audible, and the reader is very good. She is very good. But this book is so slow to begin with, and then the reader is slow. Reading is slow, and even at 2 times, it was too fast. It was too much for me. I couldn't.
Right.
I had to drop the Audible and read it.
Right.
So I could just finish it.
Yeah.
And once I did that, I enjoyed the ending of the book far more, probably because we were actually doing things at the end of it instead of just moping around and blaming each other for things that are somebody else's fault. It was just a lot for me because I guess I don't handle young characters well. If this experience has taught me anything
or
at all.
overly emotional.
Yeah.
So Selena is coming. She is hot-headed. She's traumatized. She's incredible trauma. So I know one part that you mentioned in particular is when she gets really mad at Kale and beats him up. She's not beating up Kale because Nehemia died. She's beating up Kale because she woke up in a puddle of blood when she was 8 years old, and her parents were dead. And she was beating him up because Sam died. And she was beating him up because he had the opportunity they had a trust, and he had the opportunity to prevent her murder, and he didn't. And so it's just like the reason why your mom yells at you more than most people.
But she's blaming him for the exact same thing that she just previously praised him for, because she told him he's the most loyal person she's ever met. So he's given up his entire life to serve this king.
Right.
And she's asking him to face the fact that he's a bad guy. But she doesn't give him time to do it. She just blames him for everything. He didn't think the king was intending to harm Nehemiah. He saw this as they were trying to figure out how to protect her.
Right. But you're talking about this happens 10 seconds after she found her friend murdered.
Yeah, that's
and
when
bloody
I
and
think,
all over the room.
I think my text back to that was just give her time. Because she's going to turn away from that.
Like that.
She's not being logical right now. She's being, traumatized.
But if we flip the gender script here, and you have a man who's traumatized in this situation, and he just found his friend dead, and he almost kills his girlfriend, do you give him the same leeway?
No, because he's a male, and that is not, we aren't living, there is a difference, right?
Is there?
I mean, I hear where you're coming from.
Yeah, I
really do, but I
hear you.
I think that this character is...
I think you give her this leeway because it's a fantasy environment.
Correct, and her job is violent, and her, what she's been through is unending violence her whole life. And so to have come to this moment and have this betrayal, because in that moment it does feel like a betrayal. He betrayed her trust. And we've seen this person in this book who, even when charged, even when her job is to murder somebody, she steps back and uses her own intuition and her own guidance to say, are they a good person? What's the best way to protect them? I can tell they're a good person and I want to protect them. So I'm going to lie to this king who is an evil motherfucker.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make sure that these people get away because I know that if he doesn't like them, then I know he's a bad guy and these are a good guy. So this is that frustration with her. Now, is it in any story, are we ever going to say it's okay to beat up somebody?
Because she was going to kill him.
Yeah, she was going to kill him.
The only reason she doesn't kill him is because Dorian's
magic.
That's true.
And that's it.
Yeah, that's true.
Going to kill him.
Yeah, but she doesn't because Dorian stops her because this is a moment where he gets to use his magic and say, and now everybody knows that Dorian has raw power.
Yeah.
So I hear what you're saying, but it's also like asking, like, she is an assassin. Violence is her thing. And I think, part of the first book.
Maybe if we had spent enough time actually establishing her as a violent assassin character.
But we did in this book a lot more.
Did we?
A lot more.
Only when we finally go for her to rescue Kale and we get the flashback to her.
So literally the 2 chapters before
literally only the 2 chapters before. This is the first moment I believed she was an assassin ever.
Because the most of the time she's using her insight and she is thinking things through before she's just like killing people. And I think that's that's the point. She's not just this, she's having these moments where she loses her shit because what's hers and what means the most to her is she's losing it again. It's being taken away from her again. So that's when we see that intense violence. Before that, we do actually see a more rational human being that is weighing and like judging her actions. So while we're supposed to see her be this massive assassin, what we learn is actually she's thinking it through. So I thought it was, I was reading it with that lens because you mentioned that in the last book that you didn't think that we got a lot of assassin. And I think we got way more in this book.
There's way more assassin in this one, but it's still not, you still get way more insight later on. And I'm talking about Assassin's Blade and even just the very next book.
Yeah, because even at the very beginning, when she pulls a head out of the bag and gives it to the king, I was like, she didn't kill nobody.
Yeah, and that's great.
And she didn't.
She didn't, no.
Because I didn't believe for 1 minute that she would ever be able to say, okay, so for the greater good, I'm going to make this sacrifice right now. And I understand why she didn't. I understand that she's trying to, in her own way, rebel against what this world she's been forced to be in. And I understand that, and that she has been careful and rational with absolutely everything. until she almost kills the man that at that moment she loves.
Because it's a very different moment. Like there's a lot of things building up to that. Like she's sitting on a pile of shit in that moment. She just saw her best friend and her only friend murdered. And the guy that she was dating knew that might happen and didn't mention it to her. And if there's anything that she knows about herself, it's that she's pretty good at protecting the things that she loves, except for she's not, because everything that she loves gets brutally murdered and slaughtered and taken away from her.
Always lying through her teeth to everybody around her.
Right.
But she doesn't like it when people lie to her.
Well, and I think she really struggles with like loyalty and honesty because she's kind of always had to. And I think that's part of this book. And
it was the betrayal that really sent her over the edge, I think.
Yeah, because you see her through this book lie and then decide, actually, I do trust you enough with this to carry this information. And she does change.
Yeah, and I think this is where if we had taken book 1 and book 2 and we had slotted them together so that we got her just out of Endovier in the middle of this trial where she's fighting for her freedom, facing the idea that she's going to have to kill for the person that she absolutely hates, who's the king. And then the only person that she has found that she loves gets murdered.
Yeah, and she's basically an indentured servant.
Right. And if we had put those two together, I would have believed this moment completely because we would have had the momentum for this moment. We don't have the momentum for this moment. The writing up until this point has been so hit and miss that when we finally get here, I'm not willing to suspend disbelief for Celaena in this moment, because if we had put these two together, we would have gotten a much better picture of her character.
Sure. And I hear that, and I disagree, because I did get there, and I did believe this moment. And that perhaps that is me coming out and coming back, but even when I read through the first time, I was with her in this moment.
I can see Sarah J. Maas so much in everything that she's doing to get Celaena to this moment that it's like watching somebody play chess instead of reading a book.
Sure.
Yeah. And so I think that's why when I got there, I was like, oh, you just needed her to break up with Kale. That's how it felt to me. Mm-hmm. Like I needed her to break up with Kale. So this feels completely contrived. I think if I couldn't see her so much in the writing, I would have believed this moment a lot more. It's like every single hidden door is behind a tapestry, and the only places there are tapestries in the castle is where a hidden door is.
Yeah. Well, and I think one of the reasons why this is so enjoyable to me is because I don't see any of that. Like that layer, the writing of it, I'm just enjoying the story as it goes, and I can take it as it comes. So I think that I'm able to emotionally connect with these characters because I'm not distracted by the like structure of the storytelling.
Yeah.
And so I think that's really cool that you're able to point that out.
Yeah, I didn't realize that the hidden door behind the tapestry in the library was the only one.
She's like, oh, there's a tapestry. She even says there's probably a door behind it.
In my mind, I did not even
in the first read through, you do remember that. Like I remember thinking that and being like, oh, there's behind every tapestry, there's a cool hidden door.
There's a hidden door.
But it's almost so I always find, and I will describe a lot of her books like this, where you see something coming and it feels satisfying that it happened the way you thought it would, versus I'm disappointed it wasn't more twisty.
Yeah.
So that's how I feel about it. It feels cathartic and comforting that the thing that I thought would happen. And, we get, even in the first book, there are a lot of pointing towards she is Aelin Galathynius.
Yes.
We're supposed to think that. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's intentional. Right. And that's the thing I think that some people find really annoying, is that she's sprinkling and it's a slow burn. So yeah, maybe in retrospect, sometime they could put these two books, they could layer them on top of each other. I'm really worried we're not going to get through the series.
We're going to make it.
I know.
I'm really worried about it. I'm just like, I don't feel like you're connecting with these characters.
Maybe the next one. I don't know.
If you can get is very different too, then I feel like it's smooth sailing.
Yeah, but you don't like our main character.
I liked them okay in the first book, and then in this book, it was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like when Dorian's
You're
like,
so dumb.
She manipulated me. She manipulated me into doing this, as if he didn't go to Endovier and break her out.
Yeah.
And bring her back. And he's like, it was all a ploy. She wanted me to do that.
But this
she
is
made
also,
me do it.
This is also a guy that's reeling in his feelings because he was just rejected, and that's not something that's ever happened to him before.
Yeah.
So he's pointing fingers like a low-frequency motherfucker. And then as he realizes, like, oh, I am a decent dude, and he lets it go. And I think that's a really great example of...
I love Dorian.
A nice guy not having to say I'm a nice guy, but just being a nice guy.
I did like when he let it go. And he like saw her and Kale together, and he was like, you know what? I'm okay.
Yeah,
with this.
so it's kind of like a really mini emotional arc. He starts off by pointing fingers and being like, this is their fault. I'm not to blame for this. And how dare you, you manipulative asshole. And then immediately turning around and being like, hey, wait, this is fine. I can let this slide.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think
he does a lot of growing.
If we need to pause, I also have 2 bags of crack in the car. One, Nerd Clusters. Ever had them? Mm-mm. It's the best candy in the world. It's like chewy in the middle with nerds on the outside. And then 2, Cadbury Mini Eggs.
Oh,
crack on crack.
Good. Yeah.
Wow.
We might need that in between after we get done yelling at each other about Selena.
Does that feel like yelling? I'm not yelling.
No.
I'm not yelling.
It's
I'm sorry.
Good. We're having a debate.
Okay.
I did like Mort. She totally made Mort up on the motherfucking spot, but I like Mort.
Yeah.
I was like,
oh, good. By the way,
finally.
the doorknob talk.
Yeah, yes. And I feel like if Mort wasn't on the spot, we would have gotten him in the first book.
I was exactly. Yep. That's why it's like watching Sarah J. Maas play checkers. It's like watching her play checkers. It's not like reading a book.
I am so grateful that I don't see... This is like movies.
This is why I struggle with reading. Is because as soon as I can see the author, I'm like, oh, there you are, motherfucker.
Movies.
I got
You're
you.
too smart for your own good.
Yes.
And that's the problem.
Yeah,
you need to come down to our level.
Yeah. You need to let it go.
If there was sex, I would. But we don't even get sex.
Not
you're expecting me to do this.
Won't for like 4 more books. This is a young adult series. But
I was listening to this with Matt, and it was a part where she was talking to Mort, and she asks him a question. He's like, "You're not asking the right questions," and she's like, "Oh God!" and she just leaves.
Yeah, because she's annoyed by the talking doorknob that won't give her a straightforward question.
But Matt goes, "Does she have a limit of how many questions she can ask per day?" And I was like, No, there's no limit. She could just stand down there and grill Mort, but every time she's like, "Oh God, Mort," and she just leaves.
So that's why I want to bring up a theme that is throughout this book, which is Selena struggling with. Like, we want her, in that moment, you want her to be the hero that is analyzing and critically thinking and realizing that she's got a puzzle in front of her.
Asking 2 questions.
Yes,
just
correct.
Ask one question.
What we've got is a person that the only thing that she wants in the entire world is to not be a slave, to not be enslaved, to not be an indentured servant, to not work for the people that killed her parents. She's just thinking 4 years out, and she wants a normal life.
Yeah.
So every time she comes up against one of the, until she's ready, right? Like Nehemia, and so I want to. Do you know the chapter where it's like she does these random chapters where you're not sure who the point of view is, right? But it's obviously Elena and Nehemia talking to each other. Did you read that or listen to it?
Listen to it.
Yeah, because the voices.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you're reading it, there's no indicator that that's exactly who it is. Mm-hmm. But on the audiobook, the narrator does the voices. Yeah. So you're like, oh, okay. I know exactly who it is.
Got it.
But she's supposed to feel, and maybe this is just a plot device, but she is supposed to feel extremely hesitant because she does not want to take on her destiny or the fate or her because word means fate.
Word. I just love how every time I read it, I go, word.
So she doesn't want to, I lost my thought.
Do hard things.
She doesn't want to do
really hard.
She doesn't want to have to do anything that she struggles with it. And you see her over and over again. Her default is to do the right thing. But she doesn't want, she just wants to live a normal life. She doesn't want to get drawn
into anything. Yeah. She's fighting her destiny.
Yeah.
With
she wants
everything
her normal life
that she has.
Yeah.
She knows that she's not going to have a normal life. She knows deep down.
Because she hasn't.
She knows who she is. She knows she's the lost princess. She knows she has the destiny, and she is fighting it. within herself in this book.
Yep. Every step of the way. And so when she... Yeah.
It's
By
okay.
continuously going down to Elena's tomb and being like, I'm going to solve this puzzle. No, I'm not.
I just think it's funny. It makes me laugh that you hate her so much because Sarah J. Maas loves Selena. Like,
that's her girl.
That's her
that's
number one.
Sarah J. Maas.
But also, when we get to, you're going to love Kingdom of Ash because even I'll be curious to see how Kingdom of Ash. Oh, wait, we're in our first hour. Okay, never mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like.
More than the eye riddle. I love how we don't trust anybody, but Archer's like, what? You think I'm with the Resistance? I'm not with the Resistance. And she's like, oh my, I knew you weren't. Oh my God. We go so far back. We're buddies. She trusts Archer completely. He's like, I'm going to sneak you into this room. I just happen to have lockpicks with me. It's fine.
Yeah.
I was in here accidentally, even though it's locked and no one has a key, but it's cool. It's cool. It's cool. And can you just like take a look around and see what you see? It's fine. See what you see. But do check out the bookshelf where I left that book for you to read. Could you do that, please?
Yeah. Does he sell it at that point?
He's like, well, I left that book for you. I can hear you touch the
Oh,
thing.
sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry. I'll pet the chair. Sorry.
But even after that,
just like petting the cord of the mic.
but even after that, she's still like, oh, it's fine. Archer's fine. It's fine. And then he informs everybody that she's after them and they're fleeing.
Well,
and he's like, well, I kind of like, I let it slip like a little bit or whatever at dinner or something. And she's like, it's okay, Archer. We're still friends.
Yeah.
But see, I didn't get that whole thing. I still thought in my head that she knows. You know, she's not being fooled by him.
Right.
And I just thought she was acting or playing along.
Yeah, and at this, she is. And at this point...
Then we needed to write that better.
Well, in this point in the book, we don't really have a clear idea of what's going on with this rebellion.
No. And
we're getting bits and pieces of it. And at this point in the book, she's seeing her old friend, who she has been told to murder. And what she's been doing is going around to see if the people that the king wants murdered are actually... need to be murdered.
Yeah.
So at that point in the story, she's just trying to do you need to be murdered or not? And then she goes,
excuse me, do you need to be murdered?
Like, are you worried? Are you a good dude? Are you a good man or a bad man?
She gives him the benefit of the doubt for motherfucking days.
But she also has history with him, and she's known him a long time, and they come from the same thing. And he is also another indentured servant. Yeah. So I think she connects with him on that level because
cut from the same cloth.
Yeah, like we have been brought up and raised, and all we are trying to do is find some freedom and some peace for ourselves. So when she goes up to, what's his name? Duke? No. Davis.
Did you write it on the board?
Oh, no, I didn't.
Duke Davis.
Dave.
Duke Davis sounds
It's
good.
also Otterland.
Yes.
Yeah. You're welcome.
I wrote Otterland.
Yeah, it's not.
Otterland.
She doesn't.
I want to spell it OTTERLAND.
She doesn't pronounce it the way it's spelled either.
No.
So sometimes she says Ardalon.
Yeah.
Like there's an R in the first syllable, but it's actually in the second syllable. And the narrator actually does mispronounce. Like she changes it up. Mm-hmm. Also, just since we're talking about pronunciation, my girlfriend Jennifer is reading A Court of Thorns and Roses for the first time. And that narrator pronounced in the first book Rhysand's name Rhysand.
Oh, I know.
The whole time.
I know.
And so I corrected her and said it's Rhysand.
Yeah.
And she said...
you can call him Reese.
No, she goes... She's so mad. Because she doesn't like to be wrong. She's always been like that our whole lives. She's just like... I just want you to know. She said, I just want you to know that the narrator pronounces it like that. And I was like, okay, Jennifer. Yeah. And then I go and listen and share shit. So, Jennifer, I love you. You're right.
I listened to The Witcher, the whole first book of The Witcher.
Yeah.
And he pronounces the bard's name Dandelion, the entire first book. His
Isn't
name
it
is
Dandelion.
Dandelion.
It's like they don't.
And when I found out it was Dandelion, I was like, well, no, go back. I liked Dandelion.
Dandelion. Yeah. Well, it's just
who looks at that and goes,
Dandelion. Was he British?
Dandelion. No.
Like aluminium?
No.
Or
no
Adidas?
excuses. Zero excuses. Dandelion. Yep.
Yeah. Well, it's like just if you don't know, check in.
Yeah.
Call the author.
What editor got that through? They were like, don't. Yeah, that sounds
so
more fancy.
Rhysand I was like, no, it's rescind.
And she only does that in the first book.
Because she's corrected.
Yeah.
Because Sarah comes
I don't see why they didn't go over this, like, before they started to record.
Correct. Because he's not the main.
Yeah, he's not.
Jennifer, don't listen to this. She won't. She probably won't.
The most cunning High Lord.
That's later. That's later.
And she gets it right in the second book.
Yeah,
she gets it right in Mr.
So
Fury.
let's talk about the riddle.
Okay.
So just to whoop 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 us back to
sure.
Takes her forever to get to it, which Mort is finally like, Mort knew the whole time. Mm-hmm. She could have just asked an actual question like, how do I see inside that room? And he could have answered it. But instead she's like, what's in the room? Is this, my favorite one. This must be some kind of prank. I'm in this tomb that's been lost for 1,000 years.
She wasn't ready.
There's a secret door.
She wasn't ready to know.
That you can only see if you stand in a certain spot, but that's some kind of joke. That's real funny. 1,000-year-old person who built this tomb.
At?
Yeah.
You're on candid camera. I was like, I'm sorry, what? She was like, it's a prank. It's just a joke. It's fine. It's just a joke. And I was like, well, who thinks that? Nobody thinks that.
Someone in denial.
Yeah. She could have said, you know what? I'm not going to deal with this. Or something dangerous could be back there. I'm going to deal with it later. There's a million ways we could have dealt with that other than somebody's probably playing a trick on me that they're never going to see the punchline of because they built this tomb so fucking long ago. Yeah. But they're playing the long game.
And like Nehemia at one point says there's eyes everywhere. I don't know what that eye is. There's eyes everywhere.
Yeah, she's like,
it's just an old historic symbolism thing.
Yeah, which soon as Nehemia was like, no, we're not going to look into this. I was like, oh, Nehemia knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess Nehemia, because when I was rereading it, I was like, why didn't Nehemia just go ahead and fill her in? But Nehemia knew that Selena was not ready.
And Nehemia, what we learn is that I don't know if we're supposed to assume that people aren't going to put together that Nehemia and Elena are the ones that are trying to push Dorian and Aelin's forward. They know this big ordeal is coming and that there has to be a hero, and they're like, one of them has to break first. It's like one of them has to come forward, and we think that Selena's farther along.
Yeah.
And so she's not sharing intentionally to push her along, thinking that this is how, I have to die so that you come back, so that you realize, so that you're motivated to, be the power, use your power for good, because you can't be that powerful and just sit back and not take responsibility.
Yeah, she martyrs herself for, the greater good, for Selena to get her head out of her ass.
Well, and just decide that, to be motivated, just to take it on. I mean, I can imagine, Selena's life is really, really hard. It's been really hard. And I think that it makes a lot of sense why she's not ready to take on something that big and save the day in the way that she's going to have to.
Well, I believe it, because as soon as she learns the riddle, she's like, well, that's such a fucking mystery. I can't. It's literally there's 3 artifacts and here's the 3 locations where they are. Okay?
Yeah.
That's the riddle. Okay? And the only riddle is what do we mean by these vague location descriptions? Right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it's not a mystery. And she's like, you know what? I should probably go and trust that really random lady that I was scared shitless by earlier.
Oh, you're talking about Baba Yellowlegs?
Yeah. She's like, I'm going to go ask her because this isn't going to backfire, period. Yeah.
Essential.
This is the surreal in Throne of Glass.
Yeah, but she's not. And in fact, so something that is wonderful about this book, though, is we get tiny glimpses of really important characters. Tiny glimpses. She mentions Lysandra once. She mentions Adian once. She mentions Arabin a couple times. Baba is really important, and her crown of stars, and this evil witch. We get a glimpse at what these iron.
And how big is this stupid wagon? She's in this.
I mean,
she gets lost in this wagon.
Yeah, it's important. It's a wagon. It's magical. It's 500 years old.
I need to be on YouTube because the eye roll was just like, oh, God.
Yeah, I mean, it's a magic wagon. You know, this 500-year-old witch.
Which she just goes in. She's like, well, you should probably come in this wagon with me. Selena's like, okay, that's fine.
Well, I mean, she's very arrogant.
I have lots of daggers. I could probably kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's very confident.
But she's also
that
really
she could...
scared. And she also really, now, at this point in the book, she's trying to be smarter about finding the answers to these things. Right? Mm-hmm. Like, Nehemiah's gone. She's decided, okay, I'm going to try and solve these puzzles. Let me go ask Baba Yellowlegs. See what's going on in her magical forest of mirrors with her iron teeth and her iron claws.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't think you really get a great indicator of how big of a deal it is that she murders her. But it is a pretty big deal.
But it is a big deal.
It's a big deal. And she does get some answers, you know? We get a lot. We every time we talk to Baba, we learned so much. Like, highlighted everything she said.
Yeah. Just, and then Matt was listening to it with me when Dorian goes to talk to Baba.
Yeah,
Baba. Sorry, my son's blanket's name is
Baba.
Baba.
It's you can call her whatever.
Baba Yellowlegs.
Yellowlegs.
And Matt was like, wow, he could have buried the lead or obfuscated those questions a little, because he literally sits down in front of Baba and he's like, why do I have magic and where did that come from and what's going on with that?
Yeah.
Like, you don't know her. You shouldn't. Selena was terrified of her, so you have every reason to believe you shouldn't trust her. And you literally walked up to this carnival sideshow lady with like a tent and a glass ball and were like, hey, so you know that thing that my father murders people for without even asking any questions? Yeah, I've got that. And I was wondering maybe if you could tell me about it, just like a little bit or whatever.
Right.
Think about who he is, though. He's never faced any adversity. Everything is his way.
He paid her.
He could have been like, my friend has something
So
going
it's
on.
okay to ask. It's not okay. You have to ask Mort questions directly, but you can't ask Baba Yellowlegs directly.
Mort's not going to go to the king and sell information. Mort's stuck to the door. Yeah. And Mort never talked to the king.
But also, I don't think that he realized, I think that he genuinely thought that she was there to be like a carnival attraction and not the queen of witches that his dad is actually conferring on. Right?
Yeah.
So I don't think he's dumb, and I don't think he made that connection because dad doesn't talk. They don't have an open relationship.
Right.
No.
So, I mean,
they don't have an open relationship.
They don't really communicate well.
Yeah. And then we find out that the king has a piece of the word gate, at least one piece of the word gate.
Yeah, he has a key. He has a word key.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because he, 20 years or however long previously, did the same thing Selena did.
Yeah.
Where he found the room and started learning, but Mort never talked to him. He said, I never condescended to talk to that guy.
Yeah. Because Sarah J. Maas just invented me this book, so I wasn't around then.
I mean, but that's how books work. Isn't that how books work? As a writer,
Why wasn't he around in the first book?
Because he was chilling out, relaxing, all cool.
I picture him as one of the knockers from the labyrinth. Like the
Absolutely.
one with the one in its ears where it's like, nope, can't hear you.
Yes, 100%.
Mamble.
Same.
What about the picture I sent you guys of them?
And with the a little bit more of a skull face, like and such a little. He's so snarky.
Yeah, I know he's a skull, but I just picture him very like goofy looking.
Same, because of his voice.
Because he's Mort. Yeah. For some reason, he has like a New Jersey accent. In the fantasy world.
I know. I can just imagine being an
Mort.
audio narrator. And
like, is Mort Jewish?
Yeah. Morty.
Really might be.
He really, Mort means death and he's a skull, right? But she's like, let's do a little play on that.
Yeah.
Morty. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he's
like, don't be so selfish.
Everyone keeps telling her she's selfish. Everyone.
Yeah,
she's like, it's just like your opinion. I don't.
Whatever.
But think about.
I'm so selfless.
Well, she does do things that are selfless. And then she does things that are selfish. So it really is, she does go back and forth. And it really just depends on whether or not that means something to her. So I don't know. I kind of understand where she's coming from, where she doesn't want to take on the big adventure at this point. And then she's like, yeah, we got to go do this.
Yeah, because she ends up inside the clock tower, which is the first moment where she's like, hey, maybe there's something up with the clock tower. That's really weird. Maybe this giant black tower that doesn't match anything else that's covered in gargoyles and surrounded by word signs is in some way fucking significant.
So I do think it's a little bit...
anything else.
I do think it is... It does take me out a little bit when there's so many,
because she's incurious. She doesn't ask questions about anything. Every time she walks in the throne room, she's like, oh, that's weird. That fire's green. This king has literally forbidden magic, and he has a green flame in his throne room. And she never once is like, I wonder why that's green. Is that so much to ask? Yeah. I just want her to look over and go, wow. That matches the clock tower, and there's a green flame in it. I wonder if these two things are connected. But Sarah J. Maas doesn't want us to know that. She wants that to feel like something she's going to reveal later.
Yeah.
So she can't have any of her characters even think about it.
Right. But not all people are like that.
You wouldn't look at a flame and be like, why is that green?
But I'm also an air sign.
If you saw a fire.
But I'm an air sign too.
I have friends who are not, they are doers, and they are forward moving doers. Mm-hmm. They are not people who stop and consider and intellectualize.
It just would be like, what the fuck's up with the green flame?
Yeah, I get it. But I know, I'm just saying, I know people who are like this, so it's not unbelievable to me. And I genuinely think that Sarah J. Maas is kind of like that because she
thinks we are.
A lot of characters, she rates a lot of her characters like really stubborn and hot-headed and like focused. Forward focused, yeah.
A Ford Focus?
She's a Ford, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
To Ford Focus. We got a bunch of new characters in this book, too.
Yeah.
And they all got black rings.
We got a few new characters.
We got Roland.
Yep, Roland Havillard.
And we finally met Dorian's spoiled brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, Roland's there for like 2 seconds.
Right.
He befriends Dorian, even though Dorian's like, oh, he's such an asshole. And then he's like, well, he's not that bad of an asshole. And then he gets a black ring and he goes off with Duke Parrington and Kaltain. Yeah.
Kaltain.
Yeah.
So when Selena is in the dungeon after she tries to kill Chaol, we do get, some more hints of, what's going on from Kaltain, just from her mutterings, you know. So that's exciting.
Yeah.
More sprinkles.
We got it. Selena did. Selena was like, oh, poor dear. She's lost it.
Poor girl.
Poor girl.
Well, I mean, do we need our characters to acknowledge everything they think?
Do we need them to immediately verbally dismiss
We already know
she could have just
that
heard
Selena
it and
does not.
Does she dismiss the green flames?
She dismisses everything. She pointedly is like, meh, whatever. She's crazy. We could have just been like, oh, wow. We don't have to have her dwell on the feathers and the wings and the whatever Kaltain is seeing right now. We don't have to. It's fine. She's young. I get it. She just had a traumatic experience where she tried to kill somebody else. But anyway, we don't need her. I don't need her to dwell on it right now, but I need her to not immediately dismiss everything. I think that's really my problem. It's not that she's not thinking about it. It's that she's immediately like, oh, that's just another joke.
And
I wonder if Kaltain knew the lady that built that tomb and they're in on the joke all together. It's just like, no, don't tell me she dismissed it.
There's a lot of behind the scenes thinking too that we as the reader are not aware of until
it's presented.
Yeah,
until shit's going down.
Sarah J. Maas likes to do that,
and that will be even more. That will be
definitely
like a
more
thing. That's like an
Aelin
thing in the next.
Aelin, yeah.
Every book.
She does the same thing with Feyre, where you think she's not going to have it, or you think whatever she hasn't thought this through, and then you're like,
secretly she's been planning this.
I'm actually 3 steps farther ahead. Than
and you kind of learn that as Aelin matures and grows up that she becomes this like master strategist, and that like everything that she wants to be good at, she's actually really good at, and that when she puts her mind towards something, she's going to succeed at it.
It may be better if I came back and read these after I get later Aelin.
Sure.
But I'm on first run Aelin.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it is hard, and I think I did experience some of that in the first go, because you don't have the grander story to fill in the gaps, right? Like we
live with her too long.
You learn so much about.
It's too long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see how it's too long. It was fine for me and for Kate, because we're just along for the ride and we're enjoying it.
Books,
but I can see how it's too long.
Well, it feels like the middle of Mist and Fury, right?
Yeah.
Like there's some lull in that book.
Yeah.
Now I can go back and I savor every little morsel of it.
Every morsel.
But I remember, there are parts of this book, and I remember because so let's revert. I listened to all 8 of these books in like a month.
Mm-hmm.
And I flew through them.
Right.
I was like, next. And it wasn't until...
So it was kind of like one big book.
Yeah. Yeah, it kind of was.
Yeah. We didn't have to wait for the next one to come out.
Nope.
Right.
It was just a giant binge. But there is something about these books that are particularly satisfying and just easy for me to absorb.
For me.
And listen to. Yeah, I mean,
I'm excited for a change of scenery.
Yeah, and I think...
And you're going to get it, girl.
Yeah,
just you
the next
wait.
book's very different. It isn't the same.
It's so
we're
much
not
fun.
in Rifthold anymore.
Yeah.
Our characters split directions. We, all of a sudden... She starts doing it in this book where she's bringing in these random chapters. Like we get a and I like this. I think it's fun. It's really enjoyable to me when it's just like, oh, who's this POV? Who knows?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, the king's talking now. We never hear from the king.
It's okay to tell your readers things that your characters don't know yet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this would have benefited a lot from that. She's trying to keep a lot under wraps.
Sure.
She's trying to obfuscate a lot.
Right.
And it ends up feeling like she's not telling you anything.
Yeah. And a lot of people who love the series have the same complaints that you do. I just have to defend them because I love these books so much.
And again,
so
I may feel differently
when
I know where Aelin is going as opposed to just knowing where she is right now.
I sure hope so, because if you don't feel it...
I mean, Kingdom of Ash wraps up
kind of retire my sweatshirt.
Yeah. So one of my favorite chapters in this book is when we get the girl at Calicula.
Oh yeah, Calicula.
After Nehemia dies, and we get to see in this very micro way how her death, what the
sparks
kind of the protests that it sparks.
Yeah.
And that it wasn't, and it's nice, and we need it because it's not just about motivating Aelin. It's also about motivating Elwë and all of her people.
We have an enslaved continent. And
that's, dude, she has that in every book.
Yeah.
All her series.
Yeah, she loves a good political uprising.
Yeah, and this book does have a lot of... That's one of the things that is... She does do a lot of politicking in these books. Yeah. And that is, I think, some of the, like, dullness, right? It's, like, magical realism versus magical, like, high fantasy.
Yeah.
And so she kind of teeters in between that. And that's, like...
Especially since we don't have magic yet.
Right, and we're just discovering magic in this world.
Yeah.
We get our first fae in this book, and it happens to be Celaena.
Because she gets all pissy and tries to bring Nehemia back because she's so fucking needy. She can't even leave Nehemia dead.
Yeah,
Which
she definitely
was my exact
she
thought.
Definitely was grieving,
like,
and
I'm going to bring Nehemia back.
Yeah, she was grieving, and she missed her friend, and she thought, "Hey, I might be able to see my friend
and ask her some questions."
While she's back.
Yeah, so I don't have to think through that on my own.
Yep, correct. She missed her friend. So she goes and...
Yes, she missed her friend.
Yes. And she
missed her friend.
And she wanted to open this portal, and it was really dumb, but it's
was
fine.
sad.
She was
Oh, right. Because I'm pretty
screaming.
sure her thought was like, oh, I can't figure this riddle shit out.
Let's call Nehemia
I'm
back.
going to call Nehemia.
mean.
Hey.
Stop being mean to Selena.
I'm on your side, Kate.
I am giving you my
I know.
in the moment impression of that, which was, Nehemia's the one who tells me what to do. I need somebody to tell me what to do.
Or,
Someone bring Nehemia back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got the spell book. I can do this.
Yeah.
It's going to be
and
fine.
she does. And what's really
And Nehemia's like, seriously?
Do not do this again.
What did you just fucking do? You brought me back?
Yeah.
She was like, you're lucky it's me.
Right.
You're lucky I picked up the phone.
But Nehemia has also had magic her whole life.
Yeah.
Selena just came to magic. She doesn't know the parameters, the boundaries, the rules of the magic yet. And so she breaks this rule she doesn't really realize she's breaking. She's like, I can open a portal. So she opens a portal.
Elena does it. In all fairness, Elena does it. She comes back.
Right.
So probably in Selena's mind, this is no different than Elena coming to talk to her.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and let's talk about the coolness of what happens in that moment, though, right?
Yeah.
So this character that we've been with for 2 books now walks into this other land. Her magic all of a sudden, explodes open. She's Fae, so she puts the bold glamour filter on.
Yeah.
She's got the pointy ears.
And pointed canines.
Yeah, and she which you love, right? You love vampires.
So she's cat-like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she, and then she's got this fire that she can't control. She knows she can't control it. She saves the dog.
Yeah.
Fleetfoot.
And Kale, kind of. She was in there.
Kale,
She was in there to save Fleetfoot.
And she comes back around to Kale.
Kale was there.
I'll
or
take
whatever.
you to Kale.
Yeah.
Fine.
And you learn Selena cannot control a lot of her powers and a lot of her emotions. And so I think part of the arc is that throughout the story, she learns more control. So when she did lose control and almost kill Kale, and she might have stopped herself. We just didn't get a glimpse of that.
I think she would have.
Right.
I think she would have just
But
messed
sure
him up
she
pretty
straight up
good.
tells story, and thank you for stopping me because I would have killed him.
Yeah.
I still think she would.
But that's how people get murdered. Rage.
Yeah.
Unbridled, unhealthy, no therapy rage.
Passion.
No therapy rage.
No therapy rage.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what was happening.
Yeah.
Too much death, too much murder, no
Too much
ability,
trauma.
too much trauma. And so when she's in that portal and we finally get to see our Aelin Galathinius.
Yeah. And Kale's like, oh,
What?
Shit. Oh,
and then still doesn't believe him. And still, even at the end, when he's going through the lineage and the genealogy, he's still like, but I guess she lived near the princess. She might know who Aelin is.
Yeah.
And then he finally puts it together. That's what I was listening to in the car, is I was listening to him.
Because she gives him the date.
Yeah.
And he's finally like, oh, she's Aelin, and I just sent her to her auntie's house.
Yeah. She's going to see Queen Mab. Yeah. Or Maeve.
That's real good. 'Cause
Yeah.
he's like, I'm going to send you where you're going to be safe.
And he thinks he's doing something strategic. If you want to talk about stubborn to the point of stupidity, while Selena has a lot of that, arrogance, she's also, Kale. A lot of people really dislike Kale. I don't hate Kale.
So there's Kale and Dorian and Selena, who are ostensibly our main characters right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they are 3 people who are theoretically in positions of a lot of power. Kale is captain of the guard.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Selena is the king's champion. And Dorian is the crown prince. And these are written as very, very young characters. Exceptionally young.
Yeah.
Young and naive, especially Kale.
Yeah.
That's fine if you want to have young characters. She needed them to be young so that they would do the kind of stuff in this book that drives her plot forward. But don't make him captain of the guard. For one, he's never treated ever as captain of the guard.
No.
The only thing this gets him is in the throne room when he's talking to Selena. That's it. That's the only thing him being captain of the guard ever gets us.
Yeah, it's basically just like a glorified friend of Dorian.
Of Dorian. He could have been the captain of Dorian's personal guard. We could have gotten away with all of the same things.
Yeah.
And it would have been far, far, far more believable.
Mm-hmm.
Because
he would be like a king's guard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the captain of the king of the crown prince, like Dorian had assigned him to be his.
Be like Dorian's bodyguard.
Like his bodyguard.
Yeah, like Jaime Lannister.
Yes.
Yeah. That would have made a
Kingslayer.
Kingslayer. Kingslayer.
That would have made...
Oh, that's next.
Kinslayer. That's
not yet. Shh.
A lot more sense.
To Rachel, yeah, it would have. Yeah.
Because we're expected to believe that he has been appointed captain of the guard. The guy that thought your organs could fall out when you fell down the stairs. That guy is supposed to be
never killed a man.
Yeah, and that's very true. He's very naive.
But also...
and entitled. And that's what happens when you are raised.
I think that the king had the captain of the guard, Kale, but then he had like his real people, that he told stuff to.
But then we actually get a POV from the king's point of view. Mm-hmm. And this whole time, I was operating under the assumption that the king knew entirely what Selena was doing and that this was part of his plan. And once we found out it's not, I was like, I don't even get one character who... Seriously? The king doesn't know what she's up to?
Yeah. He doesn't. Because at the end of the day, Selena's the smartest person in this world. I need one. You know who the smartest character in this book is? Mort. The doorknob is the smartest character in this book.
You're almost smart as a doorknob.
Yeah, that's funny.
So I need these characters to grow. That's what I'm saying. If they grow, I'll be on board. But up until now, I'm like, even the king... I was on board with the king knew what she was doing, and this was all part of some kind of elaborate plan. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't. He actually thinks she's successfully tricking him.
Yep.
And everybody is. These 3 16-year-olds.
They're in their 20s now.
Hey, they're definitely got one over 20 and 21.
Actually, yeah.
These 3 mentally 16-year-olds are getting one over the king because they're so plucky and precocious.
He's got a lot of other stuff going on. Can I just say that? He's got a lot on his... The king is...
My soul leaving my body.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got a ring. He's got, it's distracted by it every once in a while.
And so we learn a little bit about the Vogue in this book.
Yeah,
the Vogue.
We get with Baba Exposition, Baba the Queen of Exposition. She introduces us to the Vogue.
She's like, you ready to move the plot forward? Here we go.
Yeah, we learn more about witches, and something I thought was really great and I loved hearing was that the Fae with the Vogue, the ones that looked like more Fae, that was the Kraken family. Mm-hmm. And then the ones that looked more Vogue ended up being more of the Iron Teeth clans. And that's going to become really... Do we meet Manon in Heir of Fire? Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. I feel like when Manon gets here, the world changes. Shit just gets amazing.
When Manon arrives, everything arrives.
So next... Yeah.
I think, I'm pretty sure we do
her
meet
in Heir of Fire. Because all of a sudden you start to get different because then we go follow Keltane. We get a new character and a lead. We get Manon.
Yeah, but that's not until book 4, a lead.
So maybe...
Wait. No, maybe it is. Maybe you get more sprinkles in the next book.
Yeah.
You're like, maybe a little.
But I swear, in book 6, it's really good.
Just expect more not passive aggressive text.
Yeah.
Although I like my Enya reference was pretty good.
Yeah.
Sail away.
Yeah, I got you.
Because she's like, Kale, by the way, I'm Aelin Galathinius. Bye. She just hops on the boat and it's like, wave.
Wait, did you put that on Instagram?
No, I sent it in the text.
Oh, I might not have seen it. It was a really busy week for me.
You were like, I was kind of ignoring you at that point?
No, I wasn't.
Sending a lot of them?
No, I was never ignoring you. I was just thinking, like, how do I balance this? Because I don't want this to be, we hate these books podcast because I love them. So
that's why I didn't have that much to say because I'm going,
that's not how I feel. Yeah, and so something I do want to point out is, okay, so Assassin's Blade, right? There's 2 places that they recommend that you can read it. Before everything, because it's chronologically before, or when we're going to read it, which is as the 4th book. And reading back through it, now that I know those stories, seeing all the little hints of how she puts that into it. So if we, like the horse thing, when she talks about, I had an Asturian steed.
Yeah.
She did. She does. She did.
How she danced in the desert and all this stuff. You get to all these little glimpses of that.
And so seeing it through this read through and going, this is where I would have noticed that if I had read it before. But, do you want a little bit of mystery? So you're like, what is she talking about? And then you get a payoff? Or do you want to read about it first and know what she's talking about as you go along? I feel like I'm the first and you're the latter.
Maybe if I don't know. It might have helped to have a better glimpse into Selena's character.
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think
you're like, nope.
I think that all of the things that you're pointing out are legitimate and valid critiques of Sarah J. Maas's writing. And I think that
this is her second book, right? Her second published novel.
Except for Catwoman. Have you read that?
No, I haven't
either. I actually don't know anyone who has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Catwoman?
Yeah, I think she wrote a version of she wrote a book about Catwoman. Like DC Catwoman.
So, I mean, I can see that. I can see this. I mean, authors take a while to mature.
Right.
Yeah. By the time she gets to A Court of Thorns and Roses, she's like 10 books in.
Yeah.
So, it's entirely different than now. So that's probably, I'm just seeing her immaturity. And so probably as we mature,
that tends to be like you are reading a book for the writing unless it's Ice Planet Barbarians.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Unless you're distracted by smut, you are going to get hung up on the writing. Meanwhile, this is why I can watch Endgame and every Marvel movie ever and enjoy the shit out of it because I know nothing about making movies and they're just enjoyable to me. And I don't care if it's a machine. I like these characters and I can enjoy them. And I actually really like that. That I don't get caught up like Everything Everywhere All at Once. Like, I loved that movie. I thought it was great. I had a heck of a good time in the movie theater. But, people who have that more critical eye who can see those things, I mean, it's just a different experience.
Yeah, I can't turn that off. So.
Yeah, I know you can't. And that's fine. But I feel like I got to be like, no, this is why this is good.
There are a couple of movies that I can watch, and I'm just in the movie.
Right. Well, I mean, Krull's enjoyable.
Yeah.
But also really shitty.
Yeah. But I know it's going to be.
Yeah, true that.
And there's no hype about Krull. No one's pretending Krull's great.
You guys, there is very few movies that I'm like, this is terrible. There are very few books that I'm like, this is terrible. When I say something's terrible, it's bad.
Yeah.
Because I just like stuff.
Yeah, me too. Well, I don't know. Like, I just DNF'd a book, and it was the sequel to... Have you read Haunting Adeline?
I
DNF'd the second book. It's like dark romance, and it's just too much for me. I didn't like it. And it was the storytelling that I was like, I don't like the story. And that happens.
Yeah, it's very rare that I don't finish a book. Even if I'm really not enjoying it, I have to finish it.
Yeah. You DNF books a lot, right?
A lot.
Yeah.
Yes. But that's...
How do you sleep at night?
I recognize that I have a problematic relationship, but that I
don't think it's a problem.
I just wish there. I can't.
If you're not paying for them too, if you're getting them from the library.
Yeah.
But I buy all these Audible books, and if I can't get through it, I'm so mad because it was $15.
If there's a book on my bookshelf that has a bookmark in the middle of it, that's gonna bother me.
You didn't finish it.
It's gonna stay in my stomach.
It's going to sit in my tummy. Yeah.
It's going to make me very uncomfortable. I've got to have that all the way done.
Nope. Matt's like that. He'll be like, I didn't like it, but I finished it. I'm like, how? As soon as like Harry Potter, I enjoyed up to book 5. I got a third of the way into book 5 and I was like, fuck it. I stopped reading it.
So that to me is like, I cannot relate to that at all.
Yeah.
Like, nope, I don't.
I cannot relate because I fall in love with characters and become like obsessed about them.
But I didn't like her characters.
Yeah.
But I just have to know.
What happens.
It's very much just like a cabinet door is open and someone's got to go shut it.
Well, generally I know how it's going to end.
Yeah.
Because
I DNF'd Wheel of Time. I couldn't. It's too much.
It's too much.
It's way too much. I mean, it's 14 books.
Yeah, and they slow down. Like, nothing happens. And I was like, meh, never mind.
Yeah. I got through 2 of them.
I never even tried to read those.
The first 3 are okay. And then by the 4th one, you're like, please stop whining. Please, for mother, just stop whining.
I crushed the Cosmere books. Like, one back to back to back to back. They're so good. The Way of Kings. Have you read those?
No.
You should.
Brandon Sanderson.
Log into my Audible and just go through them.
Okay.
I've got 80 books.
You're like, I've got so many books.
So many books. And I feel it makes me sad that people can't, like, are we all out here just paying $15 for audiobooks?
Yeah.
No.
I guess so.
I have like 5 friends and we all share each other's logins.
Okay, good. Because you can share mine too. Are we allowed to talk about that?
That's fine.
mean,
Hello, 5 people.
we tell each other about the books.
Yeah.
Because right now nobody's listening to us, but eventually somebody
Maybe one day.
So maybe someday.
Well, I also got Libby, the library app.
Yeah.
That's really good. Oh, you know how I told you about Sabriel, which was written by Garth Nix, who is Sarah J. Maas's person? You know who narrates that series? The devil himself, Tim Curry.
Oh.
Fun.
That's our boy. That's when I knew I liked the baddies. I got my first clip boner to the guy from Legend.
I made it through most of the Dresden Files because it's James Marster. It's Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
He's American.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's wild.
Yeah.
All right, we can go get we're at an hour, so.
Okay.
All right, well, I'm going to read the next one. And I will try to keep a more open mind.
No, you don't have to have an open mind.
Hopefully I won't have to set a timer and be like, Rachel, you have to sit and read this for half an hour and then you can get up and do something else.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't.
Be honest with us.
I feel like I have been.
I mean, yeah,
Good.
I feel like you have been too.
Because if you've been holding back.
I just want to make sure that, like, I really love these books and I want to talk about the things about them I love. Like, I've got a lot of notes.
I see that.
Yeah, there's a balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we're not just all on one side. So that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot happened. It's hard to cover absolutely everything that happens in these books. Because
there's a
things
lot of
happen
things.
And then nothing happens.
Yeah.
And then a lot happens and then nothing happens. And then a lot happens and then nothing happens. And then she's just finally like, I'm not putting the sword back. The sword's mine now.
Yeah,
and
Damaris.
she just starts carrying the sword
That's
around.
great. Do it. Take that sword. No one else is using it.
No, I know.
And it's a magical sword, and you are a bad bitch, and you are like...
That's how she does.
But doesn't she give it to Kael before she leaves?
Yeah. That sword ends up with Dorian. Oops.
So we're just going to leave it right here.
Okay.
Okay, that was fun.
I'm going to go get my nerd clusters and my crack Cadbury eggs.
Until next time.
Okay, it was great to see you. See you later.